Hello, again I'm Dr. Jackson of Devon Jackson MD Ministries, and this is the media ministry of Devon Jackson Ministries, and that's entitled Your Divine Appointment. And how wonderful it is to have an appointment with the living God. And continuing our study here in the book of St. Luke, chapter 17, verses 11 through 19, we find here that Luke is reporting on a very special event. The timing of this passage in Luke 17, verses 11 through 19, the timing is, this is the beginning of Jesus' final trek to the city of Jerusalem. And we know that in his ministry, Christ covered a wide array of areas. He traveled through the northern part of Israel, Jesus himself having been raised in Nazareth, which is a city in a region called Galilee. Some may say Nazareth is the city and Galilee is like the county. And that was in the northern part of the nation of Israel. And in that area, he ministered, sometimes being limited by the unbelief of those who found him too familiar. We know your mother and your father and your brothers and sisters. But Jesus ministered throughout the areas of Israel and often came further south to the city of Jerusalem. And various events occurred, things in the temple and what have you. This time in the ministry of Christ is at the end of those 3 years. And he's making his final trek to Jerusalem, where he will, at this venture at this time in Jerusalem, give his life for our salvation. Now, often we find in Scripture, as Christ is en route to a certain city or en route to a particular event, or maybe responding to a plea or request for him to minister, while he's on his way to do one thing, he attends to other matters along the way. Such is the case in this passage where, as he's en route to Jerusalem, the passage opens up to say, he passes through Samaria and Galilee. That's significant because Samaria, as we know, is a region there in Israel, and it's named after events or locations and significant interactions that we find throughout the Scripture labeled as Samaria. So let me be more specific. We find in Old Testament times that the nation of Israel was comprised of 12 tribes. And the 10 tribes that were in the northern area were called Israel. The 2 tribes that remained in the south, closer to Jerusalem, they were called Judah. And this division of the 12 tribes into 2 kingdoms occurred following the reign of King Solomon. We know that the initial king was King Saul, the second king was King David, the third king of the nation of Israel was Solomon. So we had Saul, then we had David, then we had Solomon. After Solomon, Solomon's son named Rehoboam came to the throne, and during the reign of Rehoboam, the 12 tribes did no longer remain together, but 10 went north and 2 were in the south. The 10 tribes that were in the north, unfortunately, had a series of ungodly kings, and in fact didn't have any king that was significantly pursuing the living God. So with all that ungodly leadership, there was an ungodly fellowship. So went the sheep as went the shepherd. And with all of that ungodliness, they fell under the judgment of the Lord. And that judgment came after many warnings, many prophets warning judgment would come. Judgment did come, and that northern kingdom, which had its capital city of Samaria, that kingdom fell. And we will talk more about that in just a moment.